Insults are not harmless slips of the tongue. They are sharpened weapons of speech, forged to wound pride and unsettle the mind. A simple phrase like, "You're incompetent" in a meeting is not just sound, it is an attack designed to question your worth in front of others. A relative saying, "You'll never measure up," under the guise of humor, is not lighthearted. It is a jab meant to leave a bruise that lingers long after laughter fades. Online, where masks of anonymity shield responsibility, insults escalate into cruelty. "You're a failure. You're worthless. You don't belong here." Each word is calculated, or at least received, as an arrow piercing deeper than skin, cutting into identity itself. The sting of insult lies in its precision. It often strikes where insecurity already lives. A careless comment about appearance lands on hidden self-doubt. A sarcastic remark about competence amplifies silent fears of inadequacy. Even when spoken lightly, insults carry disproportionate weight because the mind, once struck, replays them endlessly. The sound becomes memory, the memory becomes judgment, and the judgment grows heavier with every repetition. Consider the office meeting where a colleague dismisses your idea with a smirk. "Ah, that's ridiculous. Do you even know what you're talking about?" The room falls silent. The words are quick, but their echo is long. You feel reduced, not only in the eyes of others, but in your own estimation. Or picture the family table where criticism hides beneath laughter. You're still struggling? Some people never change. Everyone chuckles, and you are left holding the sting alone. Online, insults gain their sharpest edge. "You're pathetic. Your opinion is trash. Nobody cares what you think." These phrases, multiplied by strangers and preserved in digital permanence, transform insult into spectacle. What once would fade in memory now endures in archives. The instinctive response to such provocation is anger. We burn to strike back, to erase humiliation with retaliation. But anger, once unleashed, rarely restores balance. It fuels the fire, making the insult heavier than it was. Words that could have dissolved into silence become anchors, binding us to conflict. The more we defend our name through anger, the more we allow others' words to dictate our state of mind. Here lies the true danger. Insults are not powerful because of their sound, but because of our surrender. When we react in rage, we hand over sovereignty. Our peace becomes hostage to another's tongue or keystroke. The insult succeeds not in its content, but in our response. What should have been air passing through ears becomes poison we drink willingly. This brings us to the essential question, one sharper than the insults themselves. In a world where ridicule can erupt in the office, at the dinner table, or across a million screens, how do we remain untouched? How do we resist the pull of anger without collapsing into weakness? Marcus Aurelius faced this very challenge in principle, and his answer was unwavering. In Meditations, he reminded himself that the ruling faculty, the mind guided by reason, is sovereign. Words cannot injure unless we grant them power. Anger, though tempting, is never justified as a response to insult. The path forward, then, is not retaliation, but mastery. It is the discipline of seeing insult as nothing more than sound, stripped of venom by clarity of judgment. This is where our exploration begins, to learn from Marcus how to meet insult without anger, to transform words from weapons into passing air, and to live in freedom despite a world filled with provocation. Why do insults pierce so deeply? The answer is not in the sound itself, but in our judgment of the sound. Words are vibrations in the air, symbols on a screen. By themselves, they carry no blade, yet once filtered through pride, fear, and insecurity, they transform into wounds. What should have been passing air becomes heavy stone pressing against the chest. The first root cause is ego. When we anchor identity in fragile constructs, titles, roles, possessions, insults feel like direct assaults on the self. A mocking phrase about our career feels like demolition of self-worth. Someone questions our intelligence in front of others, and suddenly our entire sense of dignity trembles. Ego converts neutral sounds into verdicts, convincing us that reputation is the measure of being. The second root cause is comparison. Insults thrive where insecurity already lives. The more we measure ourselves against others, the more exposed we become. A sarcastic jab about competence reinforces the silent fear of not being enough. An online insult about appearance echoes personal dissatisfaction, amplifying it into humiliation. Comparison externalizes value. We begin to see ourselves not through reason, but through the eyes of others, leaving every word capable of altering our worth. The third root cause is fear of opinion. Humans are social beings, and reputation carries weight in communities. When someone insults us, we imagine the whole world adopting their judgment. A careless remark feels like permanent damage to standing, as if approval hangs by a thread that could snap at any moment. Fear magnifies insults, turning them into stains we believe cannot be erased. Modern technology intensifies each cause. Social media transforms insults into performances, with audiences ready to amplify outrage. Platforms reward conflict with attention, ensuring that harsh words travel further than calm ones. What might once have faded is now archived, searchable, and endlessly shareable. The insult, instead of dissolving in silence, becomes permanent record. Notifications revive it, memory replays it, and fear paints it as proof of failure. The combination of ego, comparison, and fear, exacerbated by digital structures, creates a cycle that traps the mind. An insult sparks anger. Anger fuels retaliation. Retaliation invites more insult. The cycle spins tighter, until words dictate moods, relationships, even entire states of being. This is why Marcus Aurelius insists that the danger does not lie in the insult itself, but in the meaning we allow it to carry. If left unchecked, insults define us. They shape self-perception, distort judgment, and bind us to endless conflict. But if examined through Stoic clarity, they are reduced to what they are: sound, fleeting, and powerless without consent. And here the path forward becomes clearer. To break the cycle, we must return to the ruling faculty, the inner reason that decides whether words become chains or pass as air. Marcus teaches that sovereignty of the mind is the only safeguard. Once we see insults as judgments of others, rather than truths about ourselves, their power dissolves. This understanding prepares us for the next step, learning how Marcus himself would respond in practice, not with anger, but with Marcus Aurelius would begin with pause. For him, the first step is separation, to distinguish the insult itself from the meaning we assign it. An insult is sound. It becomes harm only when judgment labels it so. By delaying response, Marcus reclaims space between stimulus and reaction. That pause is not avoidance, but preparation. It is the sharpening of the inner blade before any outward act. Imagine reading a hostile comment online. The words arrive on a screen, sharp and loud in tone. Yet Marcus would ask, does this alter my character? Does it diminish my capacity for justice, courage, temperance, or wisdom? The answer is always no. The insult cannot touch what is highest in us. If the insult contains truth, then it is a teacher disguised as an enemy, pointing out a flaw we can correct. If it is false, it vanishes without substance, a shadow with no weight. In neither case is anger required, for anger clouds the very reason that distinguishes us as rational beings. Marcus would then remind us that the true injury lies not in words but in our surrender to them. To take offense is to grant power to the one who insulted us. He would counsel us to see the provocateur not as an enemy, but as a human acting from limited understanding. Their insult reflects their character, not ours. To be insulted is to be offered a mirror of another's weakness, not a definition of our worth. By refusing to let their words dictate our state of mind, we maintain sovereignty over the ruling faculty, the inner citadel where judgment is made. Consider the workplace example. A colleague mocks you in a meeting. The expected reaction is embarrassment, anger, or a sharp retort to save face. But Marcus's response is dignity. He might say to himself, "This remark touches only the surface. My integrity remains untouched." Outwardly, he would continue with calm composure. By staying steady, he denies the insult its intended power. The colleague expects agitation and instead meets stability. The current of power shifts. In families, insults often arrive disguised as humor. Sarcasm, careless remarks, comparisons that wound. These can cut deeply because they come from those closest to us. Marcus would not return sarcasm. He would acknowledge the words but anchor his worth in virtue, not in approval. For him, family ties do not grant authority over his inner self. He might accept that others speak from habit or ignorance, but he would not let their misjudgment become his truth. This approach is not weakness, it is strength refined by discipline. The provocateur anticipates reaction. They expect anger, defense, or retreat, but calm disarms them. Silence, when it is chosen from strength, can be sharper than any retort. It reveals mastery, the ability to govern oneself even when provoked. Marcus teaches us that the true battlefield is not the exchange of words, but the governance of the mind. To remain unshaken is victory. Yet Marcus does not stop with silence. He would turn the insult into an exercise of character. Every provocation becomes material for practice, like weights for the athlete or instruments for the musician. By meeting insult with composure, we train patience. By refusing anger, we train justice. By examining the truth within words, we train wisdom. The insult that once threatened becomes an ally in the pursuit of virtue. This is the Stoic reversal: to use adversity as fuel for growth. To see each insult as a test arranged by fate, asking whether we will choose reaction or reason. The one who insults unwittingly provides us with the chance to prove mastery over ourselves. Thus, even our enemies become unwilling partners in our moral education. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that the cost of anger is always higher than its reward. Anger wastes energy, breaks clarity, and often creates more damage than the insult itself. Calm, by contrast, preserves strength and opens the possibility of responding with justice rather than impulse. It is not passive, it is active restraint, the redirection of force toward what matters. In the end, the Stoic lesson is clear. We cannot control the speech of others, but we can control the judgment we attach to it. Insults will continue as long as humans speak, but our freedom lies in refusing to let them command our minds. The fortress Marcus describes is not built of stone, but of reasoned choice. Whoever masters that fortress is beyond the reach of insult. The Stoic framework provides clarity. Marcus repeats in Meditations, "They act from their impression. It is not the thing itself that disturbs us, but our judgment about it." These words strike at the root of human conflict. Insults, criticism, or harsh remarks seem at first like wounds inflicted from outside. Yet Marcus insists they are not injuries until we permit them to become such. This insight reshapes insult from external wound to internal decision. Central to this approach is the dichotomy of control. We cannot control what others say. We cannot prevent mockery, slander, or sarcasm. The tongue of another is outside our domain, just as the wind or the weather is outside our control. But we can control our interpretation, our response, and our state of mind. That is the fortress Marcus guards most carefully. To hand over sovereignty to another's words is to abandon freedom. Stoicism demands we keep freedom intact by ruling our impressions. Imagine hearing a sharp remark in a meeting or reading an online attack. The instinct is immediate defense, but Marcus would caution, pause, ask, is this within my control? If not, then it belongs to the realm of externals. Why tie my peace to it? He would remind us that freedom is not secured by silencing the world, but by refusing to let the world rule within. Marcus also emphasizes the universality of error. Human beings, he writes, act not according to truth, but according to impressions. Insults often come from ignorance, People speak harshly because they do not see the whole picture, or because they themselves are wounded. The angry colleague, the mocking stranger, the critical relative, all are reacting from limited vision. To respond with anger is to mirror their ignorance. To respond with reason is to maintain clarity. By choosing reason, we decline to multiply error with error. This one, check it out. Error? This is why Marcus counsels compassion even for those who harm us. Not sentimentality, but sober recognition. If they understood fully, they would not act so. Their insult reflects their blindness, not our worth. Thus, he reframes the offender not as an enemy, but as a partner in practice, an unwitting teacher giving us material to strengthen patience and endurance. At the heart of Stoicism lies virtue, and Marcus insists that virtue is untouchable. Justice, courage, temperance, and wisdom cannot be stripped away by insult. These qualities live in the ruling faculty, and no external voice can reach there without our consent. Reputation may be questioned, but character remains ours. This is the Stoic shield. Words pass like wind, but virtue endures like stone. What is stone to wind? It remains unmoved. Marcus directs us, therefore, to anchor identity not in shifting opinion, but in unchanging principles. If we tie our worth to applause or approval, then every insult cuts deep. But if we tie it to justice, to courage, to wisdom, then no insult can break it. Our anchor lies beneath the surface, secure in what does not change. Consider the image Marcus offers, life as a play. Others may hiss, boo, or applaud, but the task is not theirs. It is ours to act our role with dignity. An insult, then, is nothing more than noise in the theater. We do not leave the stage because of noise. We finish the part assigned to us. And so the Stoic framework calls us back to mastery of judgment. The harsh remark, the unfair criticism, the biting sarcasm, all these belong to the realm of externals. Our freedom lies in refusing to surrender the ruling faculty. We can meet insult not with anger, but with steadiness, not with retaliation, but with clarity. For Marcus, the measure of strength is not the volume of reply, but the quiet sovereignty of the mind that refuses to be disturbed. From Marcus' teaching, several practices arise for anyone facing insults today. These practices are not ornaments for discussion, but disciplines for daily use. They train the ruling faculty, strengthen attention, and convert provocation into practice. They are simple in wording and demanding in execution, which is exactly why they work. First, delay reaction. Anger is immediate, wisdom is patient. By pausing, we prevent impulse from dictating response. The pause is a shield, small but decisive, giving reason time to take the helm. In that instant of restraint, we remember that we are free to choose how to act. What feels like pressure to reply is only habit. Stoicism breaks that habit by inserting thought before action. This single move breaks the cycle of escalation and allows dignity to remain intact. Second, reinterpret insults. Marcus insists that everything depends on judgment. Ask, is there truth here? If so, treat it as correction and grow. If not, let it fall away like dust from a cloak. Either way, the insult loses sting because it becomes either teacher or nothing. To reframe is to reclaim authorship over meaning, which is our proper realm. Words remain outside, meaning is assigned within. When judgment stays clear, offense cannot take root. Third, remember impermanence. What feels unbearable today will be forgotten tomorrow. Time erodes even the sharpest wound and returns the mind to level ground. The permanence of insult is an illusion. Attention moves on, priorities shift, and the moment passes. By recalling impermanence, we weaken attachment to the sting of now. Marcus reminds himself that even emperors fade into a line of names. If whole lives vanish, how quickly will a comment disappear? A line of names sins you ignored. If you take hold of time, you lose access to the sting of names. In the larger view, insult shrinks to noise. Fourth, cultivate inner worth. When dignity rests on external opinion, every slight penetrates. When dignity rests on virtue, nothing penetrates. Applause and scorn are both unstable measures. Virtue, justice, courage, temperance, wisdom, remain steady. Self-respect built on principle is resistant to mockery. Guard the inner citadel, the seat of character, where no insult can enter without consent. This fortress is raised through action, not talk, by living in alignment until approval and abuse alike lose power. Practical exercises make these lessons real. Journaling captures an insult on the page and cuts it down to size. Seen in ink, it is smaller than it felt. Practice chosen silence when provoked. What is intolerable once becomes tolerable with training. Rehearse calm responses so the tongue follows reason when surprise arrives. Use evening review to ask, what insult appeared today? What judgment did I add? And what could I remove tomorrow? Meditation on mortality reduces sensitivity. In the span of life and death, a barb weighs nothing. Even the offender and the offended are passing figures. Why trade peace for a vanishing echo? These practices are not passivity. They are deliberate acts of mastery. To remain calm when provoked requires more strength than to retaliate. The untrained rush to noise, the trained return to principle. Discipline turns insult from source of pain into fieldwork for the soul. Each harsh remark becomes an exercise, each provocation a measured repetition, each attack a chance to reinforce sovereignty. Not to be delusional, we have to perceive, with decision, the figures out. Progress is visible, less reactivity, clearer attention, steadier tone, cleaner choices. Practice it every day. 2 cautions preserve balance. First, Stoic composure is not cold indifference. It is warm control, ordered by justice. Where correction is needed, apply it without malice and without haste. Second, composure is not concealment. It is integrity that speaks when speaking serves virtue, and is silent when silence serves better. The point is not to win exchanges, but to keep the soul straight. In the end, the work returns to judgment. We cannot make the world gentle. We can make our reading of the world disciplined. Insults will persist because ignorance and pain persist, but sovereignty does not depend on them. It depends on whether we rule the meanings we attach. That is Marcus's enduring lesson. Freedom lies not in changing every voice, but in mastering the faculty that decides what any voice means. The world will not stop speaking. The Stoic learns to listen without surrender, act without agitation, and leave each day with a mind kept clean. Robert Paul, Heroes Pause, Book 2. Modern society thrives on provocation. Outrage is currency. Conflict is entertainment. News cycles highlight insult. Online platforms magnify controversy. In this environment, Stoicism is not only useful, but essential. The modern world profits from reaction, and nothing triggers faster reaction than anger. Marcus Aurelius offers a counterweight: clarity, composure, and the discipline to keep the ruling faculty free from invasion. In workplaces, applying Marcus's perspective preserves professionalism. Offices are often theaters of ego, colleagues competing for influence, managers pressuring for results, clients criticizing even when service is diligent. To be mocked or dismissed in this arena is common, yet Marcus's lesson is that response, not insult, defines character. A leader who absorbs ridicule without retaliation demonstrates authority that cannot be shaken. Teams respect the one who does not collapse under insult, because steadiness reveals mastery. Anger shows weakness. Composure signals strength. By pausing before speaking, the Stoic professional transforms potential embarrassment into credibility. In families, restraint prevents cycles of bitterness. Sarcasm answered with sarcasm multiplies resentment until trivial disputes become permanent divisions. Stoicism interrupts this spiral with conscious choice. Marcus would remind himself, "Their words reflect their condition, not my essence." By responding with measured calm or even silence, we protect bonds that matter more than pride. A sharp remark can vanish if it finds no echo. Family life endures not through victory and argument, but through discipline and restraint. Here, self-mastery is not self-denial. It is the highest form of care, preserving love where pride might destroy it. Online, the relevance is greatest. Platforms are engineered to amplify outrage. Algorithms reward controversy and push content that provokes reaction. The harsher the insult, the further it spreads, provided people respond with anger. In this space, Stoicism is rebellion. By refusing to fuel the system, we reclaim attention from manipulation. Calm online is not passivity, it is resistance. It says, "I refuse to be merchandise for your outrage economy." The insult collapses when it draws no reply. Each moment of silence undermines a structure built on conflict. Marcus would pose a guiding question: does this insult alter my character? If not, then it lies outside my control and belongs to externals. The workplace insult, the sarcastic comment at home, the online provocation, all shrink when measured against the permanence of virtue. Justice, courage, temperance, and wisdom remain intact, regardless of words. Reputation may tremble, but character endures untouched. Anchoring identity in virtue strips insult of its power. The world may shout, but the inner citadel of reason stands unmoved. Practical exercises reinforce this posture. Begin the day with premeditation. Remind yourself that selfishness, rudeness, and ignorance will appear. When they do, you will not be surprised. End the day with review. Write down the insults faced, the judgments attached, and the alternative responses available. Journaling shrinks insult to its true size. Practicing silence when provoked builds resilience. Rehearsing calm responses ensures that surprise will not unseat reason. Meditation on mortality reduces sensitivity. In the vast expanse of life and death, an insult is dust. Both offender and offended will soon vanish. Why exchange peace for an echo? The broader lesson is that Stoicism does not remove insults from the world. It removes their ability to rule us. It equips us to move through environments designed to agitate without surrendering freedom. Whether in politics, business, family, or digital life, the principle remains: control judgment, govern response, and release what belongs to others. The Stoic keeps sovereignty by refusing to outsource dignity to insult or praise. In a society addicted to noise, Stoic composure is radical clarity. It is not a retreat from life, but an engagement with it on wiser terms. It models a different way of living, one where peace is not borrowed from circumstance, but cultivated from within. To practice this daily is to resist manipulation, to rise above cycles of retaliation, and to live as Marcus taught, steady in purpose, disciplined in judgment, and free in spirit. Marcus Aurelius's response to insult is not ancient advice lost in time, it is urgent guidance for today. Insults will come, but anger need not follow. Dignity lies in mastery, not in retaliation. By holding fast to reason, we preserve freedom. By anchoring in virtue, we remain untouchable. In a world driven by provocation, Marcus's voice cuts through the noise with clarity. Control what is yours, release what is not. To live this way is to reclaim sovereignty. Others may mock, but their words reveal them, not us. Their judgment belongs to them, our response belongs to us. Marcus reminds us that the ruling faculty, the power to interpret and choose, is never subject to another person unless we surrender it. Guarding this faculty is the highest responsibility of a Stoic. A person who governs themselves cannot be governed by insult. The task sounds simple, but it is demanding. Habits of reaction are strong and culture rewards outrage. Yet Marcus would say practice. Each insult is training material, each provocation a test. To guard the mind is to train daily, as an athlete trains body and a soldier trains skill. By refusing anger, we sharpen clarity. By staying calm, we strengthen authority over ourselves. This discipline, repeated again and again, builds resilience that no words can shatter. In practical terms, this means cultivating habits that interrupt impulse. When insult comes, pause before reply. Ask, is this within my control? If yes, act with reason. If no, let it pass. If truth hides in the words, treat them as correction. If falsehood drives them, dismiss them as empty air. Marcus would counsel us to turn insult into teacher or nothing. In both cases, the wound dissolves before it can take root. The family setting is often where insult cuts deepest. Sarcasm exchanged at the dinner table, criticism spoken without care, comparisons that sting, these can ignite cycles of bitterness. But Stoicism offers another path. By answering with calm restraint, we refuse to let pride damage bonds that matter more than momentary victory. To stay composed is not indifference. It is love expressed as discipline. It is the protection of what is fragile from the fire of ego. In workplaces, composure earns respect. A colleague's jab in a meeting tempts retaliation, but Marcus would stand steady. He would remind himself, my integrity is not theirs to grant or take away. The leader who stays calm under insult becomes a pillar others lean on. Authority does not grow from loud retorts, but from visible mastery of self. By refusing escalation, we model strength that inspires trust. Online, the stakes are different but no less important. Digital platforms thrive on outrage, feeding insults into algorithms that multiply conflict. Here, the Stoic response is a quiet form of rebellion. By refusing to react, we starve the system of fuel. Calm becomes resistance. Dignity becomes protest. To answer with silence, or with reasoned composure, is to refuse manipulation. Marcus would urge us, do not let your peace be traded for clicks. Ultimately, the Stoic goal is not to remove insults from life. They will never vanish, but to remove their power over us. The world will continue to provoke. What matters is whether we allow provocation to master us. Sovereignty rests not in controlling others, but in ruling judgment. As Marcus writes, if you are pained by external things, it is not they that disturb you, but your judgment of them. And it is in your power to wipe out that judgment now. For the audience of Sophoria, let this be your call. Do not let insults govern your mood. Train your mind as Marcus trained his. Build resilience, practice composure, and live free of anger's chain. Share your own experiences in the comments, subscribe for more Stoic insights, and join a community dedicated to living with dignity in a world of provocation. In this practice, you will discover that strength is not loud but steady, not explosive but enduring, not fragile but free.